Typography. When I talked earlier that we have to make things look easier on the eyes of our users, typography is a tool which can help you achieve that. In addition to colors, typography comes in handy when you are playing with the text. In some sense, typography also has emotions attached to it. For example, consider this text in two different fonts. It gives a totally different meaning. So it's very important to know which typefaces to use when you're implementing your design. You will often hear the term typeface and font interchangeably, but there's a subtle difference. Typeface is a family, for example, Arial. Font is a specific font in that family, for example, Arial Bold. But we will also use this interchangeably throughout this course. You might be aware that there are two major categories of fonts. One is with the little dashes, which we call serifs, and the other one is literally without serif, also known as sans serif. The serif fonts are a lot easier to be read on the printed media. But with the modern technology and the monitors and the technology which we have today, it really doesn't matter which one you use. It just depends how it goes with your design. Spacing plays an important role when we're dealing with typography. There are two terms that you should be aware of. One is called kerning and one is called leading. Kerning is also known as letter spacing. These are small spaces between your letters. Leading is the space between your lines. In any case, you will have to have a good balance of kerning and leading. If your letters are too close or your lines are too close, your paragraphs will feel dense and will trigger the feeling of uneasiness and clutter. Being said that, following are the general rules which will always almost work. For the large headings, like H1s and H2s, reduce the spacing between them. For smaller text like paragraphs and subheadings, increase the spacing. Let's see some examples. For example, this is an H1 heading in our web page. If I increase the spacing, you would see that it doesn't look so good, and it creates the feeling of uneasiness. Whereas, if I reduce the letter spacing and bring lines closer together, it looks a lot more natural to read. And similar thing goes with the paragraphs. If I reduce the spacing too much and bring the letters closer, it does not look very good on our eyes. But if I increase the spacing a little bit and give some room to breathe, it looks a lot more natural to read. Another important concept in typography is text alignment. There is one rule of thumb. Almost always never go for text justification, which means end-to-end alignment. Always resort to the natural alignment of that language. For example, English, we always read from left to right. For languages like Arabic, we always read from right to left. So if you are creating your website for English language users, always resort to left alignment. And when working with alignment, make sure you are also giving attention to the number of characters per line. Never exceed 75 characters per line and never go below 45 characters per line. This also creates an unnatural pattern which is not very good for our eyes. Staying between 75 to 45 is a very good idea, and it's easy on our eyes and very natural to read. When choosing typefaces for your design, limit to two. One is for your headings and one is for your general text. Let's see some examples implementing these principles. On the left you see I have used many fonts, whereas on the right we just limited to two. Also on the right you see that a paragraph is using less than 45 characters per line. Below we see a balanced paragraph, which is using maximum of 75 characters and minimum of 45 characters per line. Let's move to the next chapter.